What's up guys, Commander Jaime here, and I'm bringing you another Blue Wave combo video. This time I'm going to go over our first stride turns. I'm going to compare Commander Favas and Tetra-boil, potentially, and see why some of these strides can have a different impact on us. So what I mean by that is that usually we like to pitch cost for stride for, let's say, Commander Favas, right? So right off the back, we're probably going to have calling Fuevos. And the reason there was a Seagull left over is because during the early game, I'm sure usually I have like a Seagull soldier. So he's probably there for the leftover because of the grade 2 game. And so of course we're probably going to have around 2 to 3 counterblasts, assuming that you already used one from a previous Fuevos turn at grade 2, right? So that's the scenario so far. And of course there's 2 ways you can do this. So the first way is that you can give Seagull the skill and +5 to attack the Vanguard if you want to poke, and then you do Favas to give all triggers potentially to Fuevos to make them a bigger attack. So you get your 4 battles that way. If you're trying to be more aggressive, you would try to call something else, let's say like an 11k attacker, and give the +5 to actually Fuevos. So the attack pattern would be 11, 26, and then of course the skill 11 plus 5 because of the Fava skill. Then it becomes 16k. It restands 16 plus 7, that's 23. And since it was the 4th battle, Seagull will bounce their hand. So that's pretty a typical average play. And there are kind of cons with this that I kind of wanted to go over. So what I mean by that is that you have 2 rearguards in the front row if you want to go this play. And assuming that your opponent almost died this turn, they're gonna probably just attack your rearguards and deny you counterblast for your next turn, so they can have a chance to actually come back from it, which could be bad. And so you always want to keep that in mind. It just depends if your opponent is smart enough to do that or not. And as well is that we kind of called another card from a hand that sometimes may not be viable. If, let's say, we had a hand full of triggers, PGs, we probably don't want to get that extra attack. So you can do the safe route where you make the Seagull soldier attack from the back row instead. So what I like to do sometimes is that instead of doing the Commander Fava stride, we do Tetra, right? So let's say we didn't have this grade 3, right? Now we're in the situation where we only have this. And of course you can use the Blue Wave crit if you want, but in this case let's just focus on this. So why would we do this? Because Tetra's not going to restand if this is the first stride. Well, what I like about it is that it still gains the Anger Bellish skill. So your Tetra will be +3 and the Red Tech skill where you can restand 2 rearguards and give them +3. So because of this column being restood, you're still going to get your 4 attacks and still apply pressure. This is handy when you don't have more like combo pieces. Let's just say you got triggers and PGs or something that are not really optimal to call and try to poke and get more attacks that way. This also helps with Seagull bouncing back, so that way, in a sense, if you drop the card like Fuevos or Seagull, you're going to get it back. Not to mention that you have this column open, so now your opponent is going to attack the rearguard because it's Fuevos, and then if they kill it or you guard it once or twice with like a Dismal or just a 10k shield or something, they're probably going to do a second attack, potentially kill it depending on what's your hand and see if it's worth it or not at that point, and then attack your Vanguard to give you a counterblast or 2 for your next turn. So you can use your counterblast in moderation. So with this play, like I said, you don't really commit much from hand, and what you do is basically you have your 16k column attack, and then on attack you restand these. And because you're not restanding, you're not using his skill, so he will still have triple drive. And with the triple drive skill, not skill, but because you have triple drive, you have more chances of hitting that trigger, so you can have Fuevos be more deadlier in wave 3 and 4 in that sense. So with that in mind, you 29 triple drive, do Fuevos' skill. So remember he's +3, so he's 14 restands. On the 4th, he's 14 plus 10, which makes 24. This 24 hits a threshold that is over the 21k mark, so that's actually nice. And since it's the 4th battle, you can bounce Eagle once more. And notice that you have one card because it's Fuegos, and you didn't have to call anything in the other column, and nor have a like Stacian behind the Vanguard. So the other thing you can do is that if, of course, you G-guarded and you force throw this, then you can do restand and you can go for game if you can. Assuming that you have enough counterblasts or ways to like unflip that to get you the 2 counterblasts so you can actually restand. So it's more conservative and it's still applying the same amount of pressure, because if your opponent is in low damage, more than likely they're going to take some of the attacks anyway, especially your Vanguard attack. So given the +5 to Fuegos may not be worth it, so this keeps you more conservative for your hand size, so next turn you're able to do an effective turn as well. And that's, I can't really stress that as much as I can. It's important for Aqua Force to keep your advantage up, because it's a lot harder to come back than other decks can, such as like Grand Blue. If you can stride, you pretty much can do an effective turnstone, multi-attack, and then have a hand advantage after that. Unfortunately, Aqua Force can't do that right now. So I wanted to go over an interaction between Damia and Thawa's turn. And of course, assuming that this was already in the field. The interaction that I'm talking about is her skill. When your Vanguard attacks, you can Soul Blast 1, give 2 other units, like 1 Vanguard and 1 Rearguard, the +2, and herself +2. So usually it's going to be the front row, right? So you can either attack with the Vanguard first or with her first. If they have like an intercept, you might as well poke if they're going to like 5k guard anyway. So you just like poke. And of course, you attack with the Vanguard and then do her skill, where you're Soul Blasting 1, let's say Bubble Edge. You give the whole farm row +2. What sucks is that it doesn't really make any numbers. This is becoming 28. She's 11, but she already attacked, so she's useless. Fuegos is going to be 16 +2, so 18 by himself, which doesn't really pass a number. And so when you do Fuegos on the 3rd wave and do the skill, he's only 18. And then when you boost on the 4th wave, it's only a short of 1k to 26. It's a 25k column. And it's not that great, right? So with that comparison, let's take it back and do Tetra-boil instead. So what I like about this is that because you're on Tetra-boil on Anger Boil, you're always going to attack basically with this column, the first attack, no matter what. It's a 16k column, guarantee, assuming that you have a 7k booster. Because of that, it's a 10k 10k shield to drop to actually guard it. And then when you attack on the 2nd wave, you restand, +3/+3. Her skill, Soul Blast, Bubble Edge, +2, +2, +2. And now you have really nice numbers. He got +3, and an additional +2 gives it a 5k total boost, which will be on top of his 11k on the wave 3rd and more. Tetra usually is 29 because of the Anger Boil skill giving 3k. Now he becomes 31. Some clans don't have all the nice G-guards that they could just G-guard and make it like a 3-pass or a 2-pass or something like that. So that's still a threat, or at that point they would just take it, right? And she becomes 11k, so she can actually poke Vanguard. So with this, you do your triple drive, of course, any triggers, Fuegos, and then of course, your 3rd attack, Fuegos is going to attack 16, nice number, very similar to the Commander Tharos boost turn, and then of course restands. And for your 4th wave, you're flexible enough to actually poke with Damia. If they have a Rearguard, or if you can still poke with Vanguard, then you can still poke, right? So then you save your bigger column, this being the 5th wave. Seagull Soldier also got a +3 from Anger Boil, making it a 10k. So you got 10k +16, making a 26k column, which is really nice. And so at the end of that, you bounce a seagull, and you end your turn like that. So it's a nice interaction that the Mia can bring to where it fixes these numbers. And of course, on the restanding turn, you can use her again because it happens when the Vanguard attacks. So if he restands, you can do it a second time, depending if you're able to boost more with other 3Ks or any other, like Malika, Seagull, and things of that nature. So I just wanted to go over that, showing you what kind of benefit that Damia and even Tetra-boil on Anger Boil on the first stride can bring you an actual good benefit and pressure, and not always feeling like, oh, I'm going to strike Commander Thawas and my opponent already knows that and they already know what to expect, so it might be lackluster. When you do this, I've gotten people half the time like, that can't restand, right? And I'm like, no, it's not going to restand. Don't worry about it. And then when I restand, my units are like, oh, you did it for that reason. And then they realize that you could still do at least 4 attacks, you know? And because of the triple drive, you're more likely to hit triggers to stack on a restander, such as Huevos, ideally. And Damia is there to fix those numbers sometimes when you really need to. And so in this case, it actually helps fix numbers to make it a bigger threat. And I think it would be a bigger threat than the Commander Thawas turn, if you especially have the Damia in hand or on the field to go off, because it makes like perfect numbers in the front row, and then of course pairing off with like a Seagull Soldier being a 10k booster thanks to Anger Boil's 3+ skill. So I will go over more extended combos later on. I just kind of wanted to do a comparison between the two strides. First stride, when you don't have GB2, I know that the downside of this is that you'll be GB1 still because you can flip, and sometimes depending on your situation that might be okay because your hand is either not great for a Commander Thawas turn, or it's just enough to make pressure, or whatever reason, you know. Aqua Force has to deal with what we have in the hand and what we have on the field, so that's what we have to work with anyway. The other thing you could add to this to make it even stronger is that if you had another Seagull Soldier, for example, behind the Damia column, and you spend the Soul Blast cost to give +3 to her, so that way that the 4th battle, when you attack with her, she's a 21k column, it's still saving up for your 26k column attack. So that's still handy. But of course, you gotta have like the extra Seagull Soldier to go off, and then of course, since it's the 4th wave or more, it'll bounce too, so that's nice too. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this and learned something from it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Alright, bye.